Hello and welcome to Sovereign Moves. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for the latest insights.
What we're diving into today exposes the hidden realities behind the temporary pause currently holding in the Strait of Hormuz. Look, we are analyzing a highly volatile theater of operations here, where diplomacy is, frankly, just a cover for systematic liquidation. So sit down, focus up, and let's dissect the intelligence.
Here is the threat matrix we're running through today. We've got 6 critical vectors of this armed limbo: the sovereign siege, the internal 60% threshold, the Vahidi variable, the emerging UAE-Israel axis, the legal trap of UN Resolution 2817, and finally, we'll wrap up with this sovereign verdict.
Section 1. May 7th. The Sovereign Siege.
Right now, the Gulf is locked in this intense state of what we call armed limbo. Let's anchor the intelligence by tracking how rapidly this actually escalated. It all kicked off on February 28th with coordinated U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iranian leadership and infrastructure. Then, by April 13th, as Iran tried to restrict shipping, the U.S. hit back hard with a total naval blockade of Iranian ports. On May 4th, the U.S. launched Project Freedom to escort merchant vessels. And then, just 2 days later, on May 6th, Project Freedom was abruptly paused.
Now, the rationale for this sudden halt comes straight from the top. U.S. President Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, stating, Project Freedom will be paused for a short period of time, while the blockade will remain in full force and effect. I want you to really think about that for a second. It's a massive operational contradiction. We are seeing a declared diplomatic pause for one specific escort operation, while a suffocating, total economic naval blockade continues to choke the adversary. To put this blockade into perspective, consider the sheer scale of what we're looking at. This is a literal death grip on a strait that traditionally handles 20% of the world's seaborne oil and a quarter of its liquefied natural gas. The United States didn't just send a few ships, they surged massive assets to enforce this. We're talking 15,000 U.S. service members deployed, backed up by more than 100 land and sea-based aircraft operating in theater. Guys, this is a siege in everything but name.
Section 2. The 60% Threshold.
We have to pivot now from the waters of the Gulf to the internal macroeconomic collapse that is accelerating right now inside Tehran. Because of this dual blockade, Iran's domestic oil storage is overflowing and it's happening fast. Their facilities are currently 60% full. That means 50 million out of their 95 million barrels of capacity are completely saturated. They're running out of space, resorting to derelict, junk storage just to warehouse the crude they're pumping out of the ground.
The math here is absolutely unforgiving. Thanks to the U.S. blockade, we're tracking a staggering 70% drop in Iranian tanker exports. And here's the catch with oil extraction. You can't just flip a switch to stop pumping without risking permanent systemic damage to the wells. If Iran cannot clear this backlog by mid-May, they are forced to slash production by a devastating 1.5 million barrels per day. Their entire energy system is staring down the barrel of a catastrophic long-term breakdown.
Section 3. The Vahidi variable.
All this external pressure, it's completely fracturing the Iranian regime from the inside out, leading to some highly erratic military posturing. We're tracking a fierce internal power struggle right now. In one corner, you have IRGC Commander Major General Ahmad Vahidi, who leads the kinetic war faction. In the other corner is President Masoud Pezeshkian, representing the more pragmatist, diplomatic faction. Vahidi controls the actual military reality on the ground and wants to escalate, while Pezeshkian is desperately searching for a diplomatic off-ramp to save the economy. And right now, our intelligence shows Vahidi is winning this war. Despite the U.S.'s tactical pause, Vahidi's faction deliberately executed a targeted attack on the United Arab Emirates on May 4th. This wasn't an accident. It was a calculated move to force a renewed kinetic war and totally subvert any diplomatic ceasefire. At the exact same time, Vahidi's network rolled out a new system of mandatory transit permits for the strait. He's effectively trying to assert total sovereign control while systematically marginalizing his own president.
Section 4. The UAE-Israel axis.
While Iran suffocates, the broader geopolitical map is radically shifting under our feet. The UAE is quietly executing a massive $150 billion capital investment designed to unlock a 1.5 million barrel per day surplus. Their target, 5 million barrels per day by 2027. So what does this mean? It means OPEC unity is dead. The UAE has abandoned restraint, and they are preparing to absolutely flood the global market.
But obviously, overproducing and crashing prices makes you a massive target. So how is Abu Dhabi shielding this giant energy infrastructure from a cornered, aggressive Iran? By forging a secret mutual defense pact with Israel. The covert reality here is wild. Israel has actually deployed Iron Dome batteries and personnel directly onto Emirati soil. Together, they're prioritizing the India-Middle East-Europe economic corridor, completely bypassing the traditional Arab League framework to break the back of their regional rivals.
If the UAE floods the market with that 1.5 million barrel surplus, the global price of crude is going to plunge. And that brings us to this absolutely critical number, $70. $70 a barrel is the absolute red line price floor required for the fiscal survival of the Saudi Treasury's Vision 2030 and to keep U.S. shale operators profitable. If the UAE drops the price below this floor, it's not just Iran that bleeds. This is a highly calculated war of economic attrition against all competitors.
Section 5, UN Resolution 2817. While the economic vice tightens, the international legal traps are being meticulously set. The U.S., Bahrain, and their Gulf allies are currently pushing a Chapter 7 resolution through the UN Security Council. For those who don't know, Chapter 7 authorizes the use of military force. Look at the demands being made. Iran is legally required to cease attacks, disclose all sea mine locations, and fully cooperate with removal efforts. Make no mistake, this is a diplomatic pretext. It's building the exact legal framework needed to authorize overwhelmingly decisive, internationally backed military action the moment Iran fails to comply.
And kinetic military action is already a stark reality in the water. I want you to take a hard look at this metric. 16 Iranian mine layers have already been actively hunted down and destroyed by U.S. forces during the mining of the strait. Let's look at the cold, tactical facts on the board. The U.S. military has systematically dismantled Iran's maritime capabilities. 158 Iranian naval vessels, spread across 16 different classes, have been destroyed. 28 mine-dropping vessels have been sunk, and the entire Iranian submarine fleet completely neutralized. They are currently sitting annihilated at the bottom of the Gulf. Aside from a few fast attack boats, there's basically nothing left.
Section 6, the Sovereign Verdict.
This brings our intelligence dossier to a pretty chilling conclusion. The current diplomatic pause you're seeing in the news is an illusion. It is not peace. To really grasp why, you need to understand the concept of a rentier state. This is a nation where the government relies almost entirely on revenue generated from its natural resources, in this case, oil, just to function, fund its military, and maintain basic social order. Under the pressure of this dual blockade, Iran's entire systemic structure as a rentier state is literally suffocating to the point of extinction.
And you can't ignore the massive collateral damage of this economic warfare. Just look at Iraq. They entered this crisis with a projected budget deficit of over $259 million. The UAE strategy of deliberate market flooding could outright collapse these neighboring oil-dependent economies. The whole region is sitting on a powder keg of fiscal insolvency right now.
What this brilliantly illustrates is that we have officially reached the endgame. The pause we are observing right now is merely an inventory check. It's the final preparation stage by the U.S. and its allies. They are actively positioning the pieces on the board for one of two outcomes: a complete and final agreement resulting in total diplomatic surrender, or total systemic liquidation of the adversary's assets. There's no third option.
The storage is full. The clock is ticking. Are you watching the right side of the strait?
That brings us to the end of today's analysis. If you found this breakdown valuable, a simple way to support the channel is by hitting that like button. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive into the forces shaping our world. Thanks for watching Sovereign Moves, and I'll see you in the next one.